Hello, all of my Grashros viewers. This will probably be my final video on the series, and this is, of course, me wrapping it up, reviewing the entire series and what I thought of it, and, other things like that. So, let's get started with the story. Now, the story I thought was actually pretty good in the beginning. That's what got me hooked into the series, the first few chapters with Dada and the village being destroyed. But it kind of kept going downhill from there. It didn't kind of, even out. It just kind of went down as it went on. Especially at the time skip. The time skip just kind of, it went like down 2 or maybe even 3 levels after the time skip. After the first few chapters after that. It's just, I wanted this series to be good and the story to be good, but I don't know what happened to it. A lot of the things got pretty repetitive after a while. Of course, after they did a montage of it, after like Aku going to different clans and tribes and defeating the big bad monster there. And whenever Aku arrived, there wasn't really much threat of anything at that point. And surprisingly, I think it was a little too much sex in the series. Even for me. Because, trust me, I like my fair share of naughty content. But it was a little too much for me. I don't really know how to describe it, but trust me, I'm not shy about that kind of thing. Well, if I was, I probably wouldn't have gone through the whole series. So, yeah. Okay, let's move on to the world building. And I did like the giant animals and how they were drawn in this series, like the giant rhino and, of course, the Grashros, the woolly mammoth itself. I did like that. I thought they were going to expand on the, weird Sasquatch that we saw, but I guess they didn't. That was fine. But a lot of the creatures looked pretty good. Some of them did look a little weird, but overall, the art for them was very good, and I liked the aesthetic of them. I kind of didn't like how some people were superhuman. Like the only 2 people I can say that were kind of superhuman were Shirava at some points, and especially Aku. Aku was very overpowered throughout the series. He didn't really even face a challenge until the end of the series, after the time skip. So, that is one thing I really didn't like about it. About Aku and the story in general and world building. And I kind of didn't like the futuristic stuff with, the rapping cavemen and, a few of the small things that I can't exactly remember, but I know they were there. I just didn't really mesh with me. I was okay with, the flashing forward in time that they did, I think, 2 or 3 times. I was okay with that, but I still wasn't a huge fan of it. But, and it did have a few interesting story arcs, like the village of the young people ruling over the old. I did actually really like that story arc, and I was kind of disappointed on how it ended, but kind of not. I was mostly disappointed because they did a time skip. That's what disappointed me. But that arc in general, I really did like. Now, discussing the art. The art is very gory, very bloody. And I'm okay with that. I did the art overall. I'd probably give a 7.5 or an 8. The art was very good, and it was decently detailed. Let me think. Oh yeah, I forgot to say some of the characters did look a little strange at some points. For example, I forget his name, but the guy that got kind of his head indented. And it stayed that way throughout the rest of the series. Whenever I saw him, I was kind of like, what? How does your face work? Or how? It was weird. It just kind of gave me a weird feeling looking at him whenever he was on whenever he was in a panel or talking. I just didn't really like the look of him. Now this isn't the main point of probably the largest part, the characters. Some characters I really didn't like that they killed off. I'll be discussing one of them soon, but some characters I do think were a waste that they just, you know, killed off. For example, some of the tribes that were introduced in the beginning after the time skip, most of them didn't have anything else to do with the story. They were just there to be there, I guess, to have cool designs and to see them. Oh, shit. Sorry, I have my book right here. Make sure I have my notes. But I just didn't like that they killed off or just kind of forgot about characters at some point. Yeah, I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. With Ipin, Aku's, you know, best friend, he was mostly just comic relief for the whole thing. He didn't really do much. He was there to talk with Aku and to kind of, you know, fill up space. I did laugh at some of his jokes, but most of them I was just like, okay, keep moving on. All right, keep going. Yep. He wasn't really an interesting character to me. He wasn't a one-dimensional character, I wouldn't say that, but he just wasn't very interesting. Now, Baranje, if you guys remember him, he was the guy, like, the young man who bullied Aku in the village, and eventually found out that, this wasn't, like, he started to warm up to Aku, but he died in the attack. I do think that was a waste of a character. It would have been very interesting to see Baranje go with Aku and them to form more of a friendship, like either like a friendship or a brotherly relationship. And I think that would have been more interesting to keep him alive. I just was kind of sad that he was killed off. But that's just me. I like to know, you know, of course, what you guys think. Next is Sharaba and Shiruri. They were very good up until the time skip, especially Shiruri. Shiruri just became a plot device after the time skip, which I hated, because I do think she was a good character and she could stand on her own in her own right. Like if she was a main character of her own series, I do think it would have been interesting. But they kind of just, like I said, made her into a plot device, which I really didn't like. Sharava, nothing really stood out to him. He never really impressed me at all. It was kind of impressive that he got stronger to kill Aku, but nothing really came out of it. And the friendship with him and Aku was fine. It was nothing really stood out to me about him. And that's really all I have to say on Sharava. He's a hard character for me to talk about, because to me he's just very uninteresting. And now, before I talk about our main character Aku, I want to mention his father, Dada. Now, I have to say right now, Dada was a much more interesting character than Aku throughout the series. Even though we didn't get a lot of time with him, he was very interesting, with him being the main hunter for the village, and the leader of the village, the elder, saying that his son is going to be born on a blood moon, so we have to kill him, or he's going to bring bad luck. He was like, no, fuck that. I'm going to prove myself, and he went to kill the rhino, bring it back. He got injured, and he couldn't do anything anymore, and even after that, he wasn't like the stereotypical, oh yeah, I'm a warrior that got injured, so I'm, mad about that, or grumpy about that. He was happy with his job in the village, which was making spears, and taking care of his wife. He was fine with it, and he was happy, and he lived together with the son, and they were a pretty good family. And I do think he should have died. In the story, to make the story work, I'm okay with him dying, and him going out like a boss and fighting and injuring the mammoth. That was fine. I just think Aku never got to that same level of interesting that Dada did. But now that I just fangasmed about him, let's talk about Aku. Aku was kind of a generic character in the beginning, of course, with everybody hating him because he's a demon or whatever, you know, like Naruto and other characters. But he did get more interesting after the mammoth fight, you know, after the mammoth destroyed his home and he went off on his own as a kid. The story got infinitely more interesting. But after he freaked out in the young people village, and there was a time skip. I just feel bad about where his character went, and how he acted. He was very, overall, I think he was a 2-dimensional character. He was never a 3-dimensional character. The only 3-dimensional character I ever saw in the series was Dada. And everybody else was pretty 2-dimensional or even 1-dimensional at some points. So, and like I said before, I didn't like that Aku was so overpowered throughout the series that nothing could really endanger him. So, I would say that's about all I have to say about Grashros. Of course, if you didn't like this, and I thank you if you watched this whole thing, because this is probably one of my longest videos, but of course it's a series wrap up. So I thank you for watching. If you want to see more stuff, of course, you can go look on my channel. I have a few other series that I'm currently reviewing, so I hope you enjoyed those. If you go check them out, subscribe if you want to see more stuff from me. Like the video if you did like this. Dislike it if you didn't, of course. And tell me why you disliked it. And I actually would like to know everybody's opinion on this series, because my final verdict for this series is probably, if I had to give it a like between 1 and 10, I'd probably give it a 5.5 out of 10. I don't regret reading this series, but I do think I'm probably going to forget it in like half a year to a year from now. Or, you know, pretty much. So I really would like to know your guys' opinion and what you would rate this series. And of course, if you want to write your own thing down there, do it. I'll read it and I'll comment on it. So, yeah, I'll see you guys later. And I hope you stick around. Bye, guys.